wise thing to allow even her own children to witness that. But I believe that, by it happening and now being able to like talk openly about it, there could be some true healing and not being afraid anymore of hiding feelings and things like that.
Absolutely. That's what I'm really hoping, that'll continue to be something that we all work on within our family, is just being open and honest about our emotions and not villainizing those at all. I think that's something that a lot of people do, is when they hear that someone's crying or they're upset, they're like, well, you better get out of feeling like that as soon as you can. And it's just simply not that easy. And I think that having those conversations and just being open about how you're feeling and not being judged for how you feel is very, very important. And it's difficult.
I always say, if you want to break up a conversation pretty quick, just tell them, I'd say, I work at a funeral home. They're out of here. they're like gone, Savannah. They're like, no, not going to talk about that at all. Like I can do anything about it.
Absolutely.
So, when all of this happened, as far as like now you guys are on the other side, what would you like, to say to somebody who may have these feelings, or that life is really tough? I mean, because what you do is kind of in alignment to help people not get to that place.
Yes, that is, I feel like the reason why I am so passionate about what I do now is because I had watched my mom struggle. And I remember even when I was about like 8 years old, or maybe 9, when we still lived in Ohio, my mom was going through something, but I was so young that I didn't know what she was going through.
Sure.
And now that I've spoke with my dad, I know now that she was going through a similar situation all the way back then when I was so young. So it's interesting, because now I can see how I had almost always witnessed something being off, or her not being able to voice how she feels in a way that doesn't sound crazy. I think that that's always the word that people use, is they're like, you're crazy to think that way, or you're crazy to feel that way when you've got this house and you've got this and you've got that. And it's like, but people feel a way because they feel a way, and you have to accept that, and you have to be understanding of it and be there for them and be compassionate when they speak about how they feel, because they are feelings and we're all entitled to feel however we do. So sorry. I went off.
No,
what did you ask me?
I was just asking you, like, what would you say to somebody who's, kind of may be thinking about those kind of thoughts, or feel like they're crazy, or feel like they're, not enough, and by the way, you are a child of how many?
6. There's 6 of us.
So Mom, great job.
Yes.
6 children, a family, raising everybody, dealing with everyday life. You have one.
Yes.
Imagine what it must feel like being responsible for 6 lives.
No, I
and their
really
happiness and their, their growth. And it's like, it can be so overwhelming for any woman, or father. I mean, it's tough. And the expectations out there that sometimes can be put on us to, be perfect, or to, have it all together, or to, gosh forbid if you break down and cry and scream. I mean, I remember one day slamming plates on the floor. Like I couldn't control what was happening on around me.
Yes.
So like,
you lose control.
I just lost control. Yes, you guys out there, I took my white china plates and I just started crashing them on the floor, because I was trying to get people's attention of like, look, listen, please.
Yeah.
Like, I am not holding it together well here.
Yeah. It's so real. I think that if I had one thing to say to anyone, it's hard. That's a hard question, just because I think that when you're in that state, it's hard to think about the people that love you. And I remember being on the phone with my mom at this point in time and begging her to just, Mommy, We love you. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Mommy, we need you. Please don't go. Like, it was such a difficult time. And it was so hard for her to get to the point where she did understand that we loved her and we're here for you and we will help you. So I'd like to say, think about all of the people that love you, but I also know that that's just not the reality when you're in that place. It's like, from what I saw on the outside, it's like you're in a tunnel of darkness and there is no light. And it's hard to see that from how I can understand it. And I can't understand it to a certain degree. It's really, really, really tough. But yeah, those moments of she counted down from 5 on the phone with us and hung up by 1. And we thought we had lost her. It fell to the ground, phone went silent, and we had no idea if our mom had just passed away. Like, what a whirlwind. It was really, really traumatic for not only me, but all of my other 4 of my siblings were on the phone. The youngest, my sister, is about to be 14. And this was, so when she was 10. Yeah. At 10 years old, witnessing your mom counting down. Yeah. It's heart-wrenching. And those are the details.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's a lot for people to hear. Trigger warning. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I think people obviously who are watching already saw the topic of what it is on suicide, but it's also death no more, meaning death KNOW more. Because Savannah, you said, you can't relate, but the reality is you can't relate to somebody who doesn't want to be here, but you can relate to the fact that every single one of us are going to go one day. And if we can think about life kind of backwards and like what's important today and how to just, make sure that we're, like we're in this boat together. We are in this boat together. There's nothing any one of us are going to get out of when this day happens. And I know that you're 22 and, but I shared my shows, I've lost siblings and I've lost my niece who was only 34 and her 2 children. But we know it's tough. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us. We're going to take a quick break just to catch our breath and take a moment to breathe. And please stay tuned. We're going to go to a commercial and we'll be right back.
Introducing See Us Now Staffing, led by yours truly, Laura Nowlin. As the founder and president, I bring over 17 years of expertise in sourcing for talent, building winning teams of professionals, marketing, and workforce development. At See Us Now Staffing, we're not just a staffing agency. We're your strategic partner in building a winning team of professionals for your business. My passion for community service extends to connecting entrepreneurs with local resources. Recognized by the Small Business Administration as the 2022 Nevada Family-Owned Business of the Year, we're not just changing the workforce landscape, we're defining it.
Hi, I'm John P.G. Stiles. Some people call me JPEG. You can probably guess why. I'm the founder and partner at WWDBTV. Does your business need a commercial, or do you already have one and you just want to get the message out there? Do you need a sizzle reel? Do you need an audition tape for a part that you're up for? Or have you ever thought about hosting your own show? Well, this is the place, WWDBTV.
Welcome back to the Permission Mission Show. My name is Mary McElhatton. I am your host today. I am joined with a beautiful guest, Savannah Schaefer. For anyone just tuning in, we are talking about a tough topic. We're talking about suicide. We're talking about mortality, how we can bridge the gap between the distance of not talking about it because the reality is, Permission Mission is a show that we want to normalize the conversation of mortality, just so we're better prepared, and also find some peace with those who have passed on. We are acknowledging and honoring every person, every family out there who has had to deal with losing a loved one to suicide.
Yes.
We also want to acknowledge those who have, I'm not going to say lost the battle to life with suicide, because learning about what we learn in the conversation of mortality, it's kind of bringing an understanding that, like, people don't pass on. It's not how they pass, it's when they pass.
Yeah.
So how we can just acknowledge a life for a life, well lived, however many years or days or months, or it's all important.
Absolutely.
So Savannah has shared some of her story. You shared about your mom wanting to take her life with the children, knowing about it. That has to be the hardest moment for you guys and for a mother. Savannah, share with us what kind of led up to that, because I'm certain it just didn't happen one day.
Yeah.
There had to have been things that had led up to that. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so this was during COVID, so everyone was home, and my dad had been like on a break from work as well, so he was home with us. My mom was home. I remember at this time we were doing walks around our neighborhood every single day. It was like a family. Yeah. My mom was like videoing every single day. Day 1, day 50, day 97 of walking through the neighborhood during COVID and quarantine. And I remember during that time, for me personally, I was probably at my peak of just loving life. I was working really hard in my business, and my mom was struggling a little bit with. I remember seeing her crying a few times just from overwhelm, and I think also she had a few friends and I would say friends that were passing from COVID. So she had witnessed a few of like her, I remember her customer service rep that she's fairly close with. She had passed from COVID. My mom wanted to take a trip to Ohio to go visit my grandma during Christmas. And that was not able to happen because my grandma was nervous about my mom traveling and then seeing my grandma and grandpa, my mom's parents, just for health. And they were scared of like, oh, well, what if they catch something on a plane and then they bring it to us and we're older and we're fragile and stuff like that. So they didn't want her to come. But then I know that my aunt, my mom's sister, she went to my grandma's. She just drove to my grandma's to go spend time with her. And my mom felt really left out. And like she had been told no, but her sister had been told yes. And it was hard for her to understand. So I know that was a really, really big one for her because she just felt isolated and a little bit alone. And then my dad being off of work, he was off of work, but he was just kind of using his time for himself, I guess you could say. He wasn't very involved with the family chore or what we were doing together. He was there for like every single walk. He was always there for every single walk. And there was those specific things that he was always there for. But a lot of like the house chores and things like that, it fell onto my mom. And my mom was still also working. So it just kind of felt like, I think my mom felt as if she had the world on her shoulders. Sure. A lot to handle. And then after in the same time period, she had also sat me down with my brother and had voiced to us that it was really, really hard on her to be dealing with all these things without my dad's help. So we had known that she was in a place of, I thought for sure, like, it was that she was going to leave my dad. I thought, okay, she's getting to a point where she's probably going to leave my dad, and it's really difficult for her. And I knew it was difficult, but I did not know that it was that she was depressed or that she had been thinking of suicide. That was never a question for me. I would never think that at all. And after like a few months, that was like back in October or November that we had that discussion. And then I think things didn't really change. Then she couldn't go to Ohio to see her own family. And then 2 days after Christmas was the most shocking day of all of our lives. And that was just, I think, the build-up point. And she had told my sisters that she was just going out to go grab like a Frappuccino. She said, I'm going to go grab a Frappuccino, and then took our family gun. And my sister she saw her leave, and she was like, that was weird. She just left out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then they connected the dots pretty quickly. And then we all received a little red heart, and things continued after that. So there was definitely some buildup. I just don't think that it was ever voiced. It was never voiced that was a really a place that she was actually in, I guess.
Sure. And I can only think about a person who's in that situation where they're just thinking there is no hope, or there is the only answer is death, like, and to leave a family you love and a family you worked hard for. And that's the whole purpose of this show, is for us to never let anybody be alone in how they're feeling. And if they are talking about suicide, like, it be a normal conversation to have with somebody that you love, especially, or being able to reach out for help. I mean, I pulled up, just myths about suicide. It says, talking about it actually increases the chances of it. That's a myth. That's not really true.
Yeah.
Because I talk about mortality every single day. I'm in the business, and I always say we can't promote it and we can't delay it. It just is something that is real for all of us, right? Also, people want to seek attention. I can't imagine. I think there's other ways that we could probably seek someone's attention, right?
Yeah.
Suicide can't be prevented. We're going to prove that wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just by you being here today and your mom willing to have you come on here and share her story is already just a small chance of changing this. People who do it are selfish, or they're cowards, or they're weak. I mean, what are your thoughts on just that, Savannah?
That is a very hard question, because I remember in the moment, the weeks after, I had felt like kind of resentful towards my mom.
Sure.
Because I just was so frustrated that she couldn't see how much we loved her and how much we cared for her. And I did think that it was selfish. I think that now that we have more context to it and we've had more discussions, I can see that it wasn't out of a selfish place.
Yeah.
But I remember definitely feeling like it was selfish. And I think that some of my siblings probably said the same thing. We were just so confused. And something too that not many people know is that two of my sisters have actually also attempted suicide. So this has been something that we've experienced throughout, and that's at ages 13 and like 15 or 16. Very young. Heartbreaking. And so this has been kind of a theme in my life for a long time. And what's wild is that my parents would say to my sisters that they were doing it for attention. And it's mind-blowing because my mom was also in that same place.
Yeah.
So it's such a just interesting, messed up dynamic that is so hard to understand, because there's not just like one way that this happens.
No.
It's so wrapped up, and it's a lot. It can be a lot for sure.
You just brought me back to a place that I have not thought about for a long time. So back in, I was a sophomore in high school, and my best friend, her brother had taken his life. And he was the kid that nobody wanted to play with. nobody wanted to, you know what I mean? Like, I can see how people who get singled out
isolated
would want to not feel like they're a part of anything and not have any purpose to keep living here. So this has got to change, because he was such a neat guy, but I could see how a lot of people didn't give him the time of day to talk to him and stuff. And when I found out that he had taken his life, I was so devastated, you know, and going to the funeral and stuff. And what made me really angry was that there were a lot of people there that were the ones that were not, it was like they wanted to acknowledge him then when he was gone, and didn't want to acknowledge him when he was alive. And I, as a child, I mean, I'm a sophomore in high school seeing this, you know?
Yeah.
And that's weird that just brought me back to that place, because you're talking about, you know, and I remember even thinking like, yeah, how selfish of a person it is to take their own life. But to be honest, when you think about it, that a person has to get to that place to do that. Absolutely. Number one, it's brave, not in promoting it at all. It's not a brave thing to do, but you've got to be in a brave place to be. I couldn't do it.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Like, I couldn't, just because that I'm not strong enough to do something like that. And I'm not, please don't hear me in saying that it's brave of you to go take your life. No, it's brave of you to get to a place that you would do something that most of us would not ever do. Right. And our hope today is to, again, clear up these myths around suicide, bring the conversations of mortality up in our families, so that no person ever has to feel alone if they are thinking about suicide and attempt to want to take their life. To also the people who we can give permission to talk about death openly, because we're all in it together. You see the both sides now, how difficult it must have been for a person who wants to take their life because they feel there's no hope, or there's just, that's where they're at, to a person and a family who won't talk about death at all.
Yeah, or just feelings.
Or feelings.
Just feelings.
Or feelings.
That's hard.
It also, one of the myths is teenagers or college students are more at risk. I don't know if that's all. I think any person going through some really, really tough things, like your mom, having people pass away, COVID shut everybody down. I think all of us were our mental health switched completely different for a lot of people.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
I got a question. Yes, John, you got a question?
I just wanted to go back a second to what you were talking about, you know, where the strength to do it or the bravery to do it. And it's not that, it's desperation.
The desperation.
That these people are so desperate for whatever it is that they need at that time that they're not getting, that they can't get. And so that desperation drives them to that situation. So, you know, and it is some of our faults. You know, we create that situation too often. And I think that's one of the great things about what you're doing here, is to help us realize that, and how we can, just a little thing, just smiling at somebody, saying hello, acknowledging them, you know, just nodding to them or whatever, you know. The other day, yesterday or the day before, I was at the supermarket, and I saw some old guy, and he was pretty old because he was older than I was. And he took his cart all the way back to where you put the carts instead of leaving it there, you know, and I just started clapping for him. And he got this big smile on his face, you know, just little things like that, hey, you know, you went that little extra step just to do something. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's something that I'm so intentional about. Every single day, like I go to the gym at the exact same time every single day, and there are so many older men and older women there, and my every single day, I'm always just smiling at people, and they catch me and they're like, is she smiling at me? And I always am like, yes, hi. And I make sure I wave to them, and I want them to feel acknowledged, because it's sad that as you get older, it's almost as if society forgets you exist, or as if your opinions aren't there, or like if you're not young and looking hot and whatever, that you're not acknowledged. And I am someone who's like, I love every single human being. I want you to know that I love you. And if it's just a wave, if it's just me smiling at you and they feel so like special, and then they ask you what your name is, it's just little things that you can be doing just to be vibrant and to be happy, and to show people that there's people out there who do care for you, and they don't even need to know your name. Like, we're just here to be lights, and that's what we should show up as on a daily basis. And when you take care of yourself first, you're able to have that energy to give to others, and to always show up in such a beautiful aura, because you're there to influence people in a positive way versus ignoring their existence.
So, Savannah, just a little bit of a generational difference.
Yeah.
We were raised, and I'm sure, and even my mom was raised, to always do for others.
Yes.
Always do for others. So even in my generation, it was, you always do for others as well. And I think somewhere along the way, the good news is that your generation is more about me, which is to us sometimes can look selfish, but it's not. It's saying, hey, I'm putting the oxygen mask on myself first.
Yes.
And then I can help a lot of people.
Yes.
But we're learning from your generation.
Which I'm so grateful
that
for.
wasn't something we did. And speaking of a little bit of about age, so I'm vintage, okay? I'm over 50. Will you read? So I think there's some people who are responding, and thank you guys for putting questions in the chat.
Yes.
Every week we are here at the show broadcasting live on the WWDBTV.
Mm-hmm.
And questions are always invited and always appreciated. So your eyes probably are better than mine. So you want to read something?
Yeah, Dan is saying, thank you, Savannah, for opening this conversation. He spoke a little bit about Robin Williams, and we had no idea about his struggles, and yet he made such a huge impact on this world. And he was so talented. So yes, it's very, very, very true. And I'm happy that you shared those, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to finish out the couple of the more myths again, because these really do open up ways for us to think differently about how we are reacting to somebody who's in an emotional breakdown, and not calling them crazy or not calling them selfish, but actually having some real tangible understanding so we can be there more for the people we love the most. Barriers and bridges, meaning, don't have firearms close by, but the reality is anybody can get, if they're in that place, they're going to get them if they want them.
Yeah. I mean, even my youngest sisters, the things that they were using to attempt was not a gun.
Yeah.
So there's other ways, and there's other ways that are so accessible. It really is just dependent on that person and how that person is feeling. And that's where we have to be there for them, and to open those conversations, and to also have that dialogue with yourself of questioning, why am I in this place? And why do I feel so heavy and down right now? And getting, I think, to the root of those, and really laying out all of the things that do make you frustrated or bother you so much. We can find a way to see those in a new perspective. I know for my mom, she wrote out right before this show, she showed me yesterday a list of all of the reasons why she did try to commit suicide. And reading it, I was like, wow, this is so much more than what I had thought it was. But I think that if we would have maybe had all of these things written out before anything happened, just to see, okay, these things are really weighing on her. How can we be there? How can we be more loving towards her? How can we support her in this time? How can we make sure that the time that she's missing with her mom, we can make special here? Like all of
Zoom
these little
calls.
things. Yeah.
Zoom calls.
There's things that we could have done, I think, so that she wouldn't have got to that place. But I do think it's such a big responsibility for anyone who is feeling that way to voice their feelings, and for us on the outside to be there to listen. Like Dan was saying, I saw in the chat, just listen and accept what they're saying, and don't say they're crazy. You just be there. And that's all we can do, is just try to level with them and not say, oh, you need to be happy and you need to be positive, because that's such a far reach for them in that place.
Sure. I always say, meet them where they're at, and then we just can hopefully, we rise together. Meet them where they're at. Suicide always occurs without warning. That is a very big myth. Would you agree with that? I mean, now looking back,
yes, there were little things that maybe we had just missed, I think.
Yeah.
And that's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that it even had to get to that place. Because this is a memory that will stick with all of us for the rest of our lives. And I can't imagine how it's going to affect my younger sisters. And I hope that now that they've experienced my mom going through this, that now they would never think to do it themselves.
Yeah.
I pray and I hope, but you just never know people's responses to those things.
Well, our only chance is to openly discuss it, really be okay with talking about any hard, difficult. I always say that if we talk about death and mortality, if we talk about death, it's the hardest thing to talk about with our families, that we could really talk about anything from there on. They say there was a study in Harvard where, there's like the top 6 most stressful events in life, and the top 3 are death of a spouse, divorce, and death of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, we know these are the most stressful events, but yet we're not educated on them, and we don't always have permission to openly discuss because of what we've been taught or trained. And, we're kind of like, puppies in a sense, or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that we've kind of taken that on ourselves, like, I'm stubborn. I get it. But I'm not stubborn when it comes to asking for help now, being okay to talk about death. And whoever runs away, it's like, hey, I was going to talk about some good stuff. You totally missed the opportunity to hear about it.
Yeah. I think also it's just this, I think it's maybe not your generation, but maybe the generation before, that it's very hush hush, that anything that you're going through, we don't talk about it. And I think that is actually, unfortunately, what got my mom to the place that she did, because when I think back and from the stories that she's told me, she wasn't ever in a place where she could voice how she felt openly with her parents. And the hardest things that my mom had ever experienced in her entire life, my grandma turned away from. And they still can't come back to these conversations. They still can't have these kinds of hard, difficult conversations. And that is so unfortunate. I want my mom and my relationship to be very fluid and not holding back. And there was even only a couple months ago, like back in November, my mom thought that I was going through postpartum depression. And I absolutely was not. I was absolutely the person that you see today, the happiest version of myself. But from her eyes, she thought that because I was expressing my emotions for the first time in my life, she thought that I was really down. And I said, Mom, no, I'm just sharing. When I cry, I'm letting people know. If people were just open about how they felt, we would not feel so crazy or so alone when we do feel that way. So I've been really, really intentional on even my social media to share, like, all of the struggles that I go through. I don't want you to look at me and think that girl's perfect and she's beautiful and all these things. I want you to see that I'm a real human, and I experience challenges the same way that you do. I have hard days the same way that you do. And I think that if more people would just be open about the struggles that we go through, it would allow everyone else to feel more connected. That's all it can do. It's just, then we're like, oh wow, she dealt with the same thing I went through 1 year ago or 5 years ago. I just opened up about my mom committing suicide, or attempting to commit suicide. Thankfully didn't happen. Attempting and opening up that, I had so many people reach out to say, wow, I've always felt connected to you and I didn't know why, but now that you've shared this, I finally understand that you understand life in the same way that I do. And it's a hard thing to find common grounds on, but then you're like, wow, this person really gets that feeling, and you really do understand each other a little bit more, and it does bring us a little bit closer in some way.
The connection, I think all of us want to feel that we're all seeking for, is that connection. And the more vulnerable and open that we are, I think, is what strength is.
Absolutely.
And courage is. And I think, a lot of times it's either happy or sad, and not realizing that there's other emotions in the middle of all that.
Very true.
Like maybe just desperate.
Yeah.
Or maybe just not understanding, or maybe scared. And I say invite all emotions to the party in the perfect place, and that starts in our homes.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Our homes. Like if we can't be real and authentic in our own homes, then where can we be?
Right? Yeah, and I think getting real with like yourself is super important too. And like for me, my favorite way of connecting with myself is through journaling. And that's where I get to check in with myself every morning to see like, where am I at? And the last 2 days I felt low energy and a little tired. And I wrote out why do I feel this way? And what is this coming from? And just being able to express it and be real with me, it takes the power away from what you're feeling almost. And then you're able to, then I can go voice it to my partner because I know what I'm feeling. Yeah. A lot of times we don't even know what we're feeling. And so we're acting from we're taking action from a reactive place. We're responding to someone in a reactive way when we could be proactive and let people know where we're at first. And then they know, okay, today she needs me to be a little kinder today, or I just need to be a little bit more understanding, or maybe I need to poke a little fun and lighten her up, like whatever it is. But then people are there to support us rather than us taking our anger out on them or us breaking down and then being so caught off guard.
Sure.
It's just when you're able to check in with yourself, you can check in with the people around you, and it opens that conversation up for your feelings to be somewhere and not trapped inside this body of ours that we're so our hands are clenched and we're all like frustrated and upset. We can just express it. And when you express it, it flows. It's allowed to just be one with the earth, and it's not yours. It's not yours anymore. And that's so nice.
Well, that's why you are a coach.
Yes.
You obviously have some profound insight. You've got a lot of old soul in there.
Thank you.
And, it comes from your family and taking hard situations and just seeing how we can make them better or make them doable and keep connected with one another. I purchased one of your journals and I loved what your questions were to help me get in check with ourselves, because it's been proven that we are the hardest person. We see ourselves last, right? Because we're all so focused on what's going on out there but a reflective place, it makes sense to just like where I'm at, even if it's just dark and ugly and not good, and at least you're getting it out on some paper to be able to release it.
100%.
So you would say journaling is kind of a first step?
Oh yeah, that's my daily. That is every single day. There's not a day that goes by, and when I don't, I do feel a little disconnected with myself. And like, I noticed that I don't know exactly where I'm at today. And there's days where I'm just journaling how great I feel and how productive I am and what great things are going on. And then there's others where I am feeling off or I'm feeling overwhelmed as a mom and I need that support. And just knowing that I also have myself at the end of the day. I feel like the one person you do have is you.
Yeah.
That is the harsh reality. And so if you can build a relationship with yourself, you've got someone there to support you, but it's you. And you don't have to have someone ask more questions. You don't have to have someone say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you feel that way? Because it's all you. And there's no one to bounce back. There's no one to impress or to shape yourself to look a certain way or to make it seem like you have it all together. You can just be real and honest and raw. And that's a great feeling. I love that part about journaling.
I appreciate that. I am too a big writer, and I do like to write a lot of things down and all of that. One of the things I always leave everybody with each week is the 5-second rule. And you basically put a different spin on it today, Savannah. So thank you for that. So the 5-second rule is favor inside and value everyone and everything. And the favoring inside is the journaling.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like that's give favor to the person who does matter the most, the person who, when I'm talking about mortality, like when I talk about my own mortality, it's like so personal.
Yes.
It's like, what do I want to represent in this lifetime that I have? Who do, at the end of the day, what's most important to me?
Absolutely.
So the reflection part, and that's favor to me. I also make sure to remind everybody, make enough room for everybody out there on the road. We are getting crowded on the road. There is a lot of construction here in Las Vegas, but if you do the 5-second rule, wake up and just remember to favor yourself and value everyone and everything. You'll drive a little gentler, let somebody in, also keep at the speed limit. I drive around town all the time and I see the memorials, and I do see where people have gone too soon, just simply out of just not paying attention. But today we are.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, Savannah, being here on the show.
Thank you.
And the generation changer you are, game changer. And I wish you every bit of success. And I can't wait to have your mom.
Yes.
We're going to do a recap. We promised her once she's feeling better, we'll get her on the show to tell her side of the story and also what an impact she's made already on my life. I didn't know this. And when I heard your story, like my heart just went out as a person who loves her mom and loves you guys. And we're neighbors, and I had no idea. So, but I do remember your guys' daily walks. we were all like, there they go.
Yes.
There they go. They're all wandering the neighborhood again. We were all keeping our distance, right?
Yes.
And here all we are now trying to just stay connected. So everybody have a fantastic week. You're welcome. We will be here next week, broadcasting live every Friday, 11 a.m. Next week's show is I don't have a topic, so I am reaching out to you all. Please, Permission Mission Facebook, permissionmission.com website. I have a contact me. If you will come up with a topic that I can share on the show, that's what I'm looking for. I want to connect more with my audience out there. Obviously, I shared the show with you, and we connected this way. I would have never known. And I want to connect with you. So permissionmission.com, or even in the chat, put in a topic that you personally just are thinking about lately because of something happening in life or not, but it's important to you. And when it's important to you, it's important to me. And when it's important to me, it's important to you.
Yes.
So everybody have a fantastic week. Signing off here at Permission Mission Show. See you next week.